tried filming this YouTube video like 5 times and this lighting is abysmal, but you know what? We're gonna go for it. Stay hydrated, kids. Hi everyone, welcome to the hallway scene. So it's been a minute. Year and a half, a little bit more than that, minute. Probably wondering where me and Dad went. I moved to Japan. Got a job here, and it's really hard to make YouTube videos when you are 16 hours apart. I've really missed making YouTube videos, and so I wanted to hop on here and make a quick, fun YouTube video. I promise a video about me living in Japan is coming soon. I just need time to kind of get my thoughts together because it's going to be a really big video and get some footage together and yada 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 YouTube stuff. Instead of making a video about something people would be interested in, like living in Japan, I decided I would make a video about my current hyperfixation. This will be kind of a fun video to ease myself back into making videos. This will be kind of a serious video about what I've learned playing Dungeons and Dragons, because surprisingly you can learn a lot from this silly little role-playing game. If you don't know what Dungeons and Dragons is, first off, where have you been for the past 20, 40 years? You watch Stranger Things, right? Dungeons and Dragons, or D&D, is a tabletop role-playing game, or a TPRPG. I really hope I call all those words in the right order. A tabletop role-playing game is essentially where you and your friends sit around a table, mass hallucinate for about an hour or 5 over some dice, and you go on fun adventures and you tell a collaborative story. So we will start like all good D&D characters do, with a backstory. And if I could stop slapping my thighs, that would be great. So I've known about D&D. Look at this YouTube channel, look at who my dad is.
Game.
Oh, okay.
But I remembered how cool it was because up in the corner of the character creation chart, it was just this kind of blank outline of a human.
Oh yeah.
And you could color in and design.
No, that was
I knew what D&D was. I didn't really have an interest in playing D&D. That was until I got a book about My Little Pony. Probably wondering how My Little Pony plays into this. Me too, we'll get to that. This book, it was basically a behind-the-scenes look at the show. It had things like concept art, first drafts, all that good stuff. In the book, it talked about character design. That was when I first found out that character design was a job you could have. And I'd been writing and creating and drawing characters ever since I could hold a pencil. I was like, whoa, this is a job? This is amazing. I did what every good 10-year-old does, and I go to Pinterest and I search character design. What happens when you do that is a lot of times people's D&D characters pop up. They're their own characters, fan art of things like Critical Role, or even the full character sheets would just pop up. I actually remember downloading a character sheet and trying to fill it out for one of my OCs and realizing, oh, this is a D&D character sheet. There's certain things that don't fit with this character. I should make a D&D character. Didn't want to play the game yet, just wanted to make a D&D character. Also around this time, I discovered YouTubers like Momo O'Brien and got really into things like LARP, which is live action roleplay. And I discovered the Azrai, and then that led me to Critical Role. Critical Role is what made me want to play Dungeons and Dragons. I was like, I want to play this game. What I did is I invented a game called Adventure. Basically, me and my friends would sit in a circle and I would say, would you like to start in the Forbidden Castle or the Enchanted Forest? And they would make decisions. I had this whole storyline written out and they would flip coins instead of rolling dice. I basically just ran D&D games without rolling dice. I really wanted to play this game. I wanted to create a character. I wanted to go on an adventure. I kind of gave up hope that I would ever get to play this game because no one really seemed interested in playing with me. So I kind of moved on to cosplay and creating original fantasy characters that way, and that led me to this theme park that's in Utah called Evermore. It's essentially a permanent Ren's Fair / D&D theme park, and for my birthday one year, my parents decided, hey, we can take you and your friends to Evermore for your birthday. Unfortunately, that year happened to be 2020. 2020. I was so excited. I put together costumes. I wrote this whole backstory for this character I was gonna go as. And then 2020 did what 2020 did best, and the pandemic happened. So sad, because I had put so much thought into this character I created. And so my dad was like, hey, why don't, for your birthday, we play a game of D&D? I was like, yes, I got my friends together. Jared made a campaign for us to play, and I made my very first D&D character, Patty. She is a wood elf bard, chaotic good because naturally. She also had a trombone sword. Could be like, loved her so much. We played my very first D&D game, and I had a freaking blast. I got the bug. I was so obsessed. I drew so much art of Patty, so much art of my party that we played with. It just inspired me so much to create, and we actually played 2 sessions of that campaign. And then the true big bad of D&D, life gets in the way, and if you are privileged enough to be able to play D&D like once a week, like that is such a lucky thing. Life happens. D&D kind of fell by the wayside for me. And then this is kind of where the video will get serious. You know, when you really like something and you just want to consume every ounce of media that that thing has to offer, you get that like weird self-conscious feeling, like searching for like fan art, fan fiction, like all that thing, and that there's that like tinge of like, ooh, that's, I started to feel that with D&D, which sucks because I was having so much fun. I would just sit in my room creating random characters on D&D Beyond, like I would just be rolling stats by myself. I got this like cringe, for lack of a better word, and I was like, oh, maybe this is a thing I shouldn't be obsessed with. Well, I kind of stopped for a little bit, and then I got the bug again, and I was creating characters. I was like trying to convince my friends to play with me, and then I did something that I don't recommend doing. Hi parents, this will be the first time you're hearing about this, and I'm admitting it on camera and posting a public YouTube video about it, but hi, this is my admittance to this. I play D&D on the internet with strangers. I am sure you've gotten all the spiels about internet safety, but when you're playing a game where you're telling a collaborative story, you want to be able to play with people that you feel comfortable approaching, being like, hey, I'd rather not have these topics come up, or hey, I would like to explore these topics. And trust me, I am a person with very, I wouldn't say severe, but I have some pretty bad social anxieties. My biggest fear is feeling like an inconvenience to people, but you want to play with people that you trust. So I did that for a little bit, played some random one-shots, and it kind of turned me off of D&D for a little bit. Just kind of stopped obsessing over it. Remember that self-conscious feeling I was kind of talking about? Well, another bout of that hit, and I started feeling really self-conscious again about my love for role-playing games. And I did something that I deeply, deeply regret. Listen, if you are an artist, if you are a writer, if you produce any creative work of any kind, do not throw it away. I promise you will regret it, because what I did was I deleted all of my characters that I made. I trashed a lot of the artwork that I made because I was embarrassed. And I shouldn't have been embarrassed, because those characters were parts of me that I created. And I deeply, deeply regret that. So please, please, if you produce any creative work, don't just trash it and throw it away. Give it time, give it the respect that it deserves. Then I moved to Japan. I started packing for Japan, and I had a binder with like my player's handbook and a couple of character sheets that I was like, you know what? Maybe someone in Japan will want to play D&D, and at least I'll have my player's handbook. So I slipped it into my suitcase. I embarked on my journey, my 11-hour flight journey. When I landed in Japan, it was still like pandemic times, so I got stuck in the airport. Luckily, I was stuck with 2 people that I would be working with, and I can't remember how this happened. And hi friend, you're probably watching this video. Don't know if you remember this. We were talking because we were in line for like a passport thing. I think it was our like COVID test. That doesn't matter. We were talking and D&D got brought up. And I was like, oh, I brought my player's handbook. I've played a little bit of D&D. And he was like, oh, I play D&D too. Then we did nothing with that information for about a year. And I want to say January, he messages me and he's like, hey, there's this new guy. He says that he can run a campaign for us. Would you be interested in playing D&D? And all those memories of like making characters, making artwork, like wanting so badly a group of friends to go on a make-believe hallucinatory adventure with came flooding back, and I was like, yes! Yes! He responded like, hey man, it sounds cool. I did not respond like that. Actually, funny aside story, he was like, oh, we're all meeting at this bar to like kind of discuss the game, like discussing the campaign essentially. And that night, my work called and was like, hey, can you work a little later tonight? And I said no, and it was the first time I refused overtime because they're like, hey Miriam, can you work till like midnight tonight? And I went, no, I haven't done this yet. I didn't actually say that. We all met up at this bar and we were talking about this campaign and this world we were going to be in, and I was just being like, yes, yes, yes. Once again, that self-conscious feeling came back. And so I felt this like intrusive thought creep in of like, oh, like I shouldn't be this excited about this. I shouldn't be this enthusiastic about it. Then we started playing and it was so much fun. I was having a blast. It reminded me of when I first played D&D with all my friends. And then I started drawing again. You'd think that Japan would produce endless bouts of inspiration, which it did. I just kind of lost the motivation to draw until we played that very first session. It was session 0, so it was just me and another friend, and we played, and I drew like a comic for the first time of what happened and designed my character and designed his character. And I was just reveling in the fun that I was having. It was really important to me. And that kind of like started a bug, I think, because then my friend was like, hey, I'm starting a campaign, you want to play in it? And I went, yes. And then another friend was like, hey, I'm going to run a campaign, do you want to play in it? And I went, yes. So that's how I ended up playing D&D for 3 nights a week. I'm having a blast. Even now, as I'm talking to a camera about it, that like self-conscious feeling is like, geez, you play D&D 3 nights a week, get a life. Like, this is how I hang out with my friends now, and it's how I get my inspiration for comics and character design. Like, here, this is Alkmaar. They are a wood elf wizard and the personification of anxiety. This is Rousey. She is a dwarven rogue who doesn't know when to shut up and also really likes knives. This is Amic. He is essentially just Caboose from Red vs. Blue.
Toss that grenade! That was the worst throw ever. Of all time. Not my fault. Someone put a wall in my way.
It's so much fun seeing how creative my friends are. Like, that inspires me so much. That's fun to just hang out and tell a story with a bunch of friends, something that humans have been doing since the dawn of time. But the point I'm trying to make is, don't let those self-conscious feelings ruin the fun you're having. We live in a society. We live in a society that elevates things like cringe culture, where it's almost like you should feel ashamed for enjoying the things that you enjoy. If it brings you joy and serotonin, like, why would you deny yourself that? Especially nowadays when that is really hard to come by. Second point I'm trying to make with this video is D&D can inspire you to do a lot of things. I saw a TikTok that was like, D&D is kind of like a gateway hobby to a lot of other hobbies, like art and sculpting and painting and all these really cool other creative outlets. At the end of the day, that's what Dungeons and Dragons is an outlet. So what I've learned from D&D is, don't hold back from the things that make you feel happy. If it makes you feel happy, by all means indulge in it. Like, well, to an extent. If something is not hurting you and not hurting anyone else and it's making you happy, why not indulge in it? I have started drawing again because of D&D. I have reignited my passion for animation, for art, for storytelling. While playing Dungeons and Dragons, I've met what I would consider to be my best friends. Like, I've met the coolest people in the world to me, all while playing this silly little dice game. I encourage you to play Dungeons and Dragons. Trust me, it is not for everyone. Don't be afraid to try something new. Like, you don't know what hobbies Dungeons and Dragons could lead to. Dungeons and Dragons is truly like a gateway hobby to a bajillion other hobbies. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm so sorry that like camera angles and lighting has changed around. If you'd like to know more about D&D, comment down below. I am more than happy to make more Dungeons and Dragons content, as well as just tabletop role-playing content in general. We actually have a video about TTPRPGs. I want just nerdy content in general. Like, I want to do more movie and toy reviews, and check out our videos we've made on that already. And yeah, hopefully there will be more videos to come, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye!